Hi, my name is Paul DeCarno. I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Device Authority in North America. Today we're going to look at the control panel within Keyscaler. And control panel allows you to manage a few different things. Here's a good example. This looks like a daunting agenda, but we'll go through them pretty quickly. Specifically, we'll look at managing the private certificate authorities, managing the connectors or certificates, managing the certificate policies and the password policies. From the device perspective, we're going to see how to manage those devices, how to provision a device, and then looking at the provisioning record as well, and then looking at the key certificate policies. Before we get started, I think it's important to really understand the value associated with Keyscaler and the ability to manage these things very quickly. So, for example, some of the value that our customers are seeing is the lower cost by using a private certificate authority and being able to manage that within the control panel. You also have the flexibility of using Device Authority's Epic, which allows you to quickly and efficiently manage your connections and then bring in new connections if you need to. You're also able to automate the security lifecycle management of certificates, policies, and devices, and then really provide the provisioning and the authentication and logging, which really gives you a substantial amount of trust, not only in devices, but also in the communication between the devices and the cloud services. We can integrate into a lot of different platforms, for example, ThingWorx, a number of different products within the Microsoft Azure world as well. And then also, one of the things that Keyscaler handles really well is the ability to securely deliver over-the-air updates through Keyscaler to the devices and then also to the cloud services as well. So let's get started here, and let's first look at the private certificate and managing the private certificate authority. So before we get started in looking at how to manage the private certificate authorities, let's take a look a little bit at the dashboard. It gives you a good overview of what is contained within your IoT system. You can look at across the top here, you have a home key that takes you back to the dashboard. You can manage devices. You can look at a number of different devices and device groups. You can provision the new devices, looking at the registrations, looking at the registration keys, and we'll go into this as we go through the control panel. The next tab takes you to manage the policies, and a number of different options here, looking at HSM, automatic password, and as I mentioned, we'll get through to those. How to rotate the keys and various policies that are associated with that key rotation, and then also the reports and notifications. So you can look at history of the devices, how it was authenticated, what was happening with the specific devices, and then also looking at various control panel events, but also system events in a larger world. So let's go ahead and look at the certificate authority and looking at private certificate authorities. So Keyscaler really provides value by allowing enterprises to use both public and private certificate authorities. And that integrates with a number of different, HSMs, or looking at a couple of different certificate authorities throughout the enterprise. So if we take the top one here, we can look at this, and we'll go through a little bit of what that looks like. So you can name your own policies. You can provide a unique descriptor for that, and then also as we go down, you could look at the service connector profile. So there's a lot of different opportunities here. So if you're looking at Azure, that connector exists right off the bat. for AWS as well, and there's a couple of other connectors that we provide that allow you to connect very quickly and very efficiently to your existing project. If we look at how long you want those certificate to be valid, we can provide the capability to change that as necessary. We also provide the capability to auto-rotate those certificates automatically. So that provides another level of value and another level of ease where you can change the rotation on your own. And then also the ability to revoke certificates when certain events happened as well, whether they're quarantined or whether they're blacklisted. So that really kind of summarizes the quick how you can manage those private certificate authorities very quickly. So let's go ahead and talk to the connectors right now and how they're managed within the control panel. So I mentioned earlier looking at these certificate policies and managing those within the control panel. We talked a little bit about the connectors as well. What Keyscaler does on the connector level, it really allows partners and our customers to really integrate Keyscaler with any device, any platform, any certificate authority, and any network. So if you're using Azure IoT, for example, or if you're using AWS, or if you're using some other kind of security application or platform, we provide that capability to easily build IoT services through this connector. And this connector is managed here within the service provisioning center settings. You can look here, we currently have it set as Azure IoT, and then there's a couple of other things that are populating that pull-down menu. But as you integrate and start going with Keyscaler, you provide that capability to choose as necessary on any device, on any platform, and any certificate, and really any network as well. Okay, let's move to looking at certificates and managing certificates and certificate policies. Okay, so here we are back at managing the Keyscaler certificate policies. That's under this tab and that item on the tab. So this provides our customers the capability to automatically issue these certificate policies and manage these certificate policies very quickly, very easily. We did go through before what the policy, you can certainly name the policy on your own and provide a description. You can do that automatically as well. It does not have to do manual. Again, this goes back to that value statement that I mentioned early on and the capability to do that. So we talked about the certificate generation, whether or not you can look at the generation on the device, whether the keys are actually stored on the device in the directory. So all these different options exist within this particular portion of the control panel. There's also the revocation that we talked a little bit earlier about on how you can set these revocation policies and whether or not those devices are quarantined or what happens to their certificates when the devices are quarantined, or whether the policies are blacklisted or deleted or any other kind of item related to the provisioning policy. Okay, next, let's look at the auto password policies and how that is handled within the control panel. Okay, so let's look at the automated password management and how that's handled within the control panel. So default passwords as IoT devices come out of the manufacturer has really been a problem for quite some time with IoT devices. As we remember, the Mirai infection that went into a number of different video cameras that where the customers have never changed their password. And what automated password management does is that it sets and manages local account passwords from the manufacturer on the devices. And then we have a capability where you rotate these default passwords, and it also allows the device to check in and say, hey, I still have a default a default password on this device, and let's get that changed. So let's take a look at that very quickly within the control panel and see how that's handled. So if we go to automated password policies, and let's take a look at an example. Again, it's very similar to the previous demonstration where you can define your own policy name, define your own policy description. But here we have in the settings the user accounts and whether or not you want to auto-rotate the passwords and how often you want to rotate those passwords as well. But also, it provides this capability for the device to check in and make sure that the default password is no longer there and it has been changed. So this is really geared towards reducing the attack surfaces for these default and static passwords. Okay, let's look very quickly on how the control panel helps our customers manage devices. Okay, we're back at our dashboard or at the control panel initial screen here. So let's go to Manage Devices and look here at the Manage Devices tab. This provides a great overview of the devices that are on your system and provides some really good background, particularly on the device itself. So we have devices that are listed here in the table. We have listed the authentication method, the key library, whether it's Windows or Linux or whether it's not applicable, and also some background information as well. You're also given the capability of looking at which devices are authorized, what the status of that certificate is, it's been issued, delivered, but also if you have any devices that have been quarantined automatically by your policies. Likewise, you can also see which devices are blacklisted based on the policies that you set earlier on in that Manage Policies tab. Likewise, you can also look at the device groups and looking at the group name, looking at exactly what the authentication method is for that particular group. You also have a descriptor that you can make on your own. And then within those groups, you can determine how many number of devices. This really helps you and enables you to manage all of these devices and manage the security and the certificates and the keys associated with those devices and the device groups very easily and very quickly. Okay, let's look now on how we provision a device. Okay, so provisioning devices is also handled from this tab within the control panel. And as you can see that there's a couple of different options here. You can either provision a device one by one, but we also provide the capability to be able to bulk provision devices as well. So let's look at doing a single one right now. So there's a number of different options here with provisioning a particular device. We can look at a registration method. We can look at OS types, and there's a lot of different options there as well as if you're not running a particular OS as well. So you can also look at how you identify the device, if you have a unique way of identifying device as it comes from the manufacturer. We can do MAC addresses or IP addresses as well. You're also given the capability of changing the time period from which a device can be provisioned. So if you want to be able to provision it for a particular time frame, if you're running a air quality sensor, for example, at a mining site and mining doesn't happen during the winter months, then you can make this valid from until reflect that operating schedule as well. You can also look at incorporating some geospatial information as well. We talk a little bit about the authorization controls as well, and you can identify the various identifiers yourself and where it falls in within your existing device group. You're also provided the capability to send an email to let the device know or let a person know that a particular device has already been provisioned. Okay, let's quickly look at the provisioning record and getting information on devices as they get provisioned. All right, so here we have an example of what it looks like when you have a device that has gone through the provisioning and finished up the registration process. Obviously, you have the device name here in the left column, the device identifier. We talked a little bit about that, and in this case, it was the MAC address that was used, and then what it may be authorized for and what other particular services you may be using and then connecting with. You have a unique provision ID that's associated with this particular event, as well as the authentication method. We talked previously about the valid dates, who approved it, and the email that went out as well, and when that closed. And now finally, let's look at the key certificate policies and managing that within the control panel. Okay, so finally, let's look at the key certificate policies and then looking at the rotation policies associated with these keys. One of the nice things about Keyscaler, again, is the way that you can set policies and implement these policies on an automated basis. So here, for example, it's very quick, very easy to set up a rotation policy and a key policy where you can look at the particular details. And this allows you to rotate the keys in a given amount of time based on what your needs are, and then also have the device go check for policy updates, whether that's every 60 minutes or whether that's particularly a year or some other time that may be relevant to the customer or the end user. And then also we provide the capability if something is offline, it also provides the information or provides the option to retry based on whether or not it fails. So if the connection goes down, it's going to check and check and retry whatever you'd like to set that at. And that really helps you and helps the devices and helps manage these devices in an automated way and not have to do this manually. Okay, that brings us to the end of our demonstration of various items within the control panel of Keyscaler. Really just want to kind of reiterate the ability of Keyscaler to increase the overall value, shorten the time to market, while also being quite flexible in the ability to bring in a number of different connections with a number of different security services and cloud-based platforms like Azure and AWS. This makes Keyscaler really a great choice to integrate a wide variety of devices in a number of different markets on really any kind of network. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you in the future.